Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I offer my humble obeisance to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Before reciting Srimad Bhagvatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author of Srimad Bhagvatam. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtike. By regular attendance in the classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of God, transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, dear Vaishnavas, thank you so much for joining. We are reading Granth Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, that pacifies Lord Nrsingadev with his prayers. So we started discussing the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, how he is very, very dear to Lord Nrsingadev, Lord Brahma and Shiva, knowing that yes, he is very, very dear, and Lord has personally descended for him, have pushed him forward, although he does not feel qualified. That is great. He is thinking others are much better. So how is he? Brahma and Shiva are saying you are better. Prahlad is saying no, they are better. So everyone is thinks that others are better. That's a sign of a devotee, a pure devotee. So, and although Hiranyakashipu's form is very, very ferocious, but to a child, to his own cub, it's not ferocious. So let's study the next verse, text 16. Trastosmi aham kripana vatsala dushaha duha sahogre sansara chakra kadanadgrastam pranitaha baddha svakarma bhir ushattamate angrimulam prito pavarga sharanam hridayase kadanu. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O most powerful, insurmountable Lord, who are kind to the fallen souls, I have been put into the association of demons as a result of my activities, and therefore I am very much afraid of my condition of life within this material world. When will that moment come when you will call me to the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the ultimate goal for liberation from conditional life? Purport. Being in the material world is certainly miserable, but certainly when one is put into the association of asuras or atheistic men, it is intolerably so. One may ask why the living entity is put into the material world. Indeed, sometimes foolish people deride the Lord for having put them here. Actually, everyone is put into the conditional life according to his karma. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj, representing all other conditioned souls, admits that he was put into the life among the asuras because of the results of his karma. The Lord is known as Kripana Vatsala because he is extremely kind to the conditioned souls. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, therefore the Lord appears whenever there are discrepancies in the execution of the religious principles. Yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata tadatmanam srijamyaham. The Lord is extremely anxious to deliver the conditioned souls. And therefore He instructs all of us to return home, back to Godhead. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Thus Prahlad Maharaj expected that the Lord, by His kindness, would call him again to the shelter of His lotus feet. In other words, everyone should be eager to return home, back to Godhead, taking shelter of the Lord, of the lotus feet of the Lord, thus being fully trained in Krishna consciousness. Wow. Such a beautiful verse. It has so many wonderful lessons, and for us, for all of us. So, number one, Prahlad is not saying, thinking, when will that moment come that you will call me to the shelter of your lotus feet? That this is our Sampradaya mood, the mood of separation. In the Vaishnava bhajans, we don't sing, when will, they always talk about when will that day come? Kabe habe edina amar. When will I get attraction towards? When will I call out the name of the Lord with pure heart? When will my hair stand on end calling the names of the Lord? When will I develop pure service towards deities and devotees? The more a devotee advances, the more one feels I am very far in my journey. I need to do more sincerely. I need to get better. I am very, very far. It's not that one feels, I don't know, I am so close to Krishna. I chant purely. I am very senior devotee. No, the more one advances, the more humble one gets, and the more further he feels internally. Externally, others would feel he is very, very close. He chants very nicely, like Brahmaji and Shiva are feeling. Prahlad Maharaj is very close. But Prahlad, inside his heart, is not feeling like that. He is thinking, no, I am just a conditioned soul. And Prabhupada is actually telling, he is not a conditioned soul, but he is representing that. The analogy is given, that the conditioned souls are put into this world by their own karma. It's not that the Lord wants them to suffer, go to material world and suffer there. It's one's own desire to enjoy separate from the Lord, that we are here, in whatever species we are, in whatever association we are, what we desire, that we get. Simple. So it's all by our own karma. But the Lord is still so merciful. Kripana Vatsalaha, extremely kind. And therefore He comes again and again. For what? For all of us. Or He sends His bona fide representatives, or He sends His wonderful literature like Srimad Bhagvatam, or He sends His prasadam, or He sends His pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada, etc. So all these is actually Bhakta Vatsalta or Kripana Vatsalta, that how Lord is so merciful. And taking shelter of the Lord's lotus feet is the only solution to get free from this material bondage. There is no other way, no other way, no other way. And that leads to Apavarga. We have discussed Apavarga means back home, back to Godhead. And Prabhupada is mentioning that everyone should be very eager. Spiritual greed. That means taking it seriously. A businessman takes the business very seriously. He's on a quarterly or monthly, there is audits and checks and balances. Where is my business going? What I'm doing wrong? What I'm doing right? Taking lessons from the good ones. Yes, I should do more of that. Taking lessons from the bad ones. Oh, I did this last month and it led me to this loss. I should do less of those. So in bhakti, what is profit? Things which make us closer to Krishna. Vyavasatmika buddhi. What is loss? Things which take us further from Krishna. I should do less of those. That's Vyavasatmika buddhi. That's eagerness to go back home, back to Godhead. Taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, taking shelter of the lotus feet of Guru. And being fully trained, because bhakti means training. So, training, Prabhupada, in many verses, Prabhupada emphasizes on the word training. Must be trained in Krishna consciousness. Training, what does training mean? Training means to live under the direction of a superior and to do as per the directions of the trainer. We can call mentor, trainer, counselor, special friend, Diksha Guru, Shiksha Guru. They help us to train. To the degree we are willing to be trained, to the degree actions, to that degree we'll be trained. And it's a very long training actually, because from millions of lifetime we have been trained to enjoy separate from the Lord. It's not that devotees suffer, devotees also enjoy, but that enjoyment is spiritual enjoyment. So we have to learn how to spiritual, from material to spiritual, and that's a long training. It's a very and training means molding ourselves to chip off the bad. You know, when a sculpture is chipping off, those chisels are hard. With the hammer and chisel, the sculpture is chipping off the unrequired portion from the stone or the marble, and then comes out the beautiful form, whatever murti he is making. So we have to chip off the bad things from our consciousness, desires, that's habits, and accept the good ones. That's training, that's bhakti. Any other comments anyone has? Okay, let's see what Prahlad Maharaj speaks further. Would someone like to read, or didn't get a chance yesterday or day before?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, I would like to read.
Yes, please.
Text 17. Yashmat priya priya viyoga samyoga janma sokagnina sakala yonishu dahaya manaha dukkhau sadham tad api dukkham atad dhyayaham bhuman brahmami vadame tava dasya yogam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. O Great One, O Supreme Lord, because of combinations with pleasing and displeasing circumstances, and because of separation from them, one is placed in a most regrettable position within heavenly or hellish planets, as if burning in a fire of lamentation. Although there are many remedies by which to get out of miserable life, any such remedies in the material world are more miserable than the miseries themselves. Therefore, I think that the only remedy is to engage in your service. Kindly instruct me in such service. Purport. Prahlad Maharaja aspired to engage in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. After the death of his father, who was materially very opulent, Prahlad would have inherited his father's property, which extended throughout the world. But Prahlad Maharaja was not inclined to accept such material opulence, for whether one is in the heavenly or hellish planets, or is a rich or a poor man's son, material conditions are everywhere. Therefore, no condition of life is at all pleasing. If one wants the uncontaminated pleasure of blissful life, he must engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Material opulence may be somewhat pleasing for the time being, but to come to that temporary pleasing condition, one must work extremely hard. When a poor man is rich, he may be better situated, but to come to that position, he had to accept many miseries. The fact is that in material life, whether one is miserable or happy, both conditions are miserable. If one actually wants happy, blissful life, one must become Krishna conscious and constantly engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. That is the real remedy. The entire world is under the illusion that people will be happy by advancing in materialistic measures to counteract the miseries of conditional life. But this attempt will never be successful. Humanity must be trained to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. That is the purpose of the Krishna conscious movement. There can be no happiness in changing one's material conditions, for everywhere there is trouble and misery. So in this wonderful verse, Prahlad Maharaja is praying to the Supreme Lord and asking to give him the right path of bhakti, because he has a choice. He has born in a demon family, so he could become a demon like his father, but he is intelligent because Krishna conscious person and Prahlad Maharaja, who is an exalted Mahatma devotee, so he chose the path of bhakti. So that's why he asking his Lord to give him the right path and instruction. So, and as Prabhupada is telling repeatedly in the purport, that in this material world there is no real happiness. All of us are entangled with lot of material miseries, lot of sufferings in our life, and only the Krishna conscious movement, which can the Krishna consciousness can give us the real happiness in our life, and we must understand that because we are just suffering a lot in this material world. So back to you, Prabhuji. Please explain more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. We are all going through a very difficult time. And if one is honest to oneself, one will come to this conclusion. Just today morning I was talking to my brother, and he said one of the famous Bollywood actors, Sushant Singh, committed suicide. This is today's news. I mean, India yesterday or very latest news. So, what was missing in life? Good physical health, name, fame, money, wealth, recognition, job or business, wealth. He had everything. And it's not his story actually, it's everyone's story. This is actually the 2-3 more suicide cases have come from the Bollywood. And it's coming every day. It's not that people are dying of corona. People are dying of 10, 100 different things. Some voluntarily and some not so voluntarily. But the point is the burning fire of lamentation. Whether one is in the heavenly planets, hellish planets, or one is India or US or Europe or Australia, whether one is a Bollywood star or a street sweeper, whether one is a millionaire or a poor person, everyone is suffering. And why is one suffering? Prahlad Maharaj is. So the intelligent person asks, what was now? Intelligent person should introspect. What was missing? Actually, thousands and millions of people in India are aspiring to be that person, that Bollywood star. Thousands and millions are aspiring to be a great hero. I mean, he was a hero, certainly. I mean, they call hero in the material world. But what was the missing? The missing thing, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, because of separation from them referring to lotus feet. The lotus feet. Krishna bhuli sei jeev anadir maya, anadir bahirmukh, ateva maya tare de samsara dukh. When the jiva forgets Krishna, Krishna bhuli sei jeev, when the jiva bhul jata. Anadir bahirmukh, and he turns his face away from Krishna, away from his lotus feet, towards selfish sense enjoyment, thinking, oh, I will get happy, oh, my money will give me happy, oh, my husband or wife will give me happy, or my degrees will give me happy, or my physical body will give me happiness. What is that Prabhupada is saying? This is the biggest illusion. Advancing in material activities to counteract the miseries of life, that's the biggest illusion. This attempt will never be successful. Hiranyakashipu was the best amongst them to make so attempts. But we know his situation. Dirgha Chinta, always in anxiety. He had everything. He was the real hero in material world. Imagine. Is there anyone as powerful like Hiranyakashipu? The kind of wealth he had, the kind of physical strength he had, the kind of, the demigods were his servants. Can we imagine the kind of powers he had? All siddhis and ashtasiddhis he had. But he was still miserable. So, whether we are, a tiny person or a big hero, until we take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, until we take to the process, the remedy, that what is the only remedy, Prahlad Maharaj? Everything is very clear in the translation and purport. Only remedy is to engage in your service. No other way, no other way, no other way. Nahika nistara, there is no other way. So, only bhakti, only taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet is the solution to material miseries. Material problem needs spiritual solution. Material solutions are like symptomatic solution. They won't treat the problem from root cause. If a poor person thinks, I'm poor because I'm poor, I'm suffering because I'm poor. That's not the correct diagnosis. By getting wealth, will the problems be solved? Then this person should have not committed suicide. Then the wealthy people would have been the most happiest people. But often they are more suffering. If the material education would have made one happy. I was recently hearing yesterday, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj was speaking, that I know PhD people who, fill gas at petrol pump. So Nath education can make one happy. Is the bodily looks? Now, the hero's example. He had a very so-called attractive body externally. Hiranyakashipu's body was also very attractive. So the point is, material problems, the deep root cause of the problem is separation from Krishna, forgetfulness of Krishna, Krishna bhuli saiji. And the solution, the root cause solution, treating the problem from root cause is to engage in. Prahlad Maharaj is giving the problem also, the correct diagnosis and the correct solution. And now he's asking, kindly instruct me in that service which leads to real happiness. Don't give me prayers. That's what Arjuna also said. Yat shreyasya nishchitam bruhitan. Don't give me symptomatic solution. Give me real thing which will help me truly. That is Krishna consciousness. So, any other comments or questions?
Dandavat, everyone. Ironically, that person's last movie he had asked it was on not committing suicide. In the end, the person does not commit suicide. So, such is irony of material life, like a Jiva Jago. That's why Maya is like a witch, we are sleeping in the lap of a witch, and we have to really wake up. This kind of irony we end in. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Mataji. We should certainly pray. Devotees are everyone's well-wishers, so we can certainly pray that Krishna brings him closer to his lotus feet. Yes, someone wants to speak, I guess.
Hare Krishna. This is Bhadra. Dandavat, everybody. I mean, you said so many things. The main point is that it's in the purport. Srila Prabhupada is mentioning the fact is that in material life, whether one is miserable or happy, both conditions are miserable. So until we can talk so much, but unless one realizes in his or her own life, this is the point, that the material life, whether whatever condition we get in, there will be no happiness in material. So that's the main point to come. And that's what Prahlad Maharaj is mentioning in this purport. And Srila Prabhupada is mentioning the purport. So Prahlad Maharaj is asking that I don't want the suffering. I don't want suffering at all in any womb in the future anymore. I don't want to go through the womb of the mothers anymore. I just want to Please show me. Show me the method. I'm here. I have service for you. He's praying. I'm service for you. Please show me the method. That I show me the method so I can attain your service. Please tell the truth. That's what he's saying. Very simple thing. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Would someone else like to share anything before we move on?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Raghunandan Das. One line in that made the translation of the verse stood out for me. Although there are many remedies by which to get out of miserable life, any such remedies in the material world are more miserable than the miseries themselves. So it reminds me of one instruction that I heard in one of the lectures. Material solutions to material problems, and anything that is material is temporary and it is not complete or perfect, and modern human society is trying to solve all the material problems through material solutions, and they end up creating more problems. The original problem doesn't get solved or partially solved, and it creates more problems. So that's why Prahlad Maharaj is saying it is more, the remedies in the material world are more miserable than the actual misery itself. But the actual thing is the spiritual solutions to the material problems. The spiritual solutions means we have to approach a bona fide spiritual authority and receive the spiritual knowledge, and then increase our consciousness, awareness. So that's why the previous verse where Prabhupada in the purport was talking about training, and you were also mentioning about that. Training becomes more important. Then how to properly reach the stage of taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. First of all, people do not know about God or have a half-baked conception of God, and there is no process needed, there is no knowledge needed, it's only between me and God, and I can do as I please to reach that shelter of the Supreme Lord. So there are so many different conceptions out there. So we need a proper spiritual guidance and training for us to move on the path correctly, on the correct path, and move on the path correctly, and then finally reach the destination of surrendering at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And then while doing that, we are still existing in the material world, but the approach we have towards the material problems, we are not immediately taking a band-aid approach and doing material solutions to material problems, but rather it is spiritual solutions to the material problems. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Okay, let's read the next verse. Someone who has not read in last 2 days would like to read, please.
Yeah, I can read.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna devotees, text 18. Soham priyasya sruda paradev devatya lila katas tava nasimha vrinicha kita anjas titami anupranan guna vipramukto durgani te pada yugalaya hamsa sangha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. O my Lord Narasimhadeva, by engaging in your transcendental loving service, in the association of devotees who are liberated souls, hamsas, I shall become completely uncontaminated by the association of the three modes of material nature, and be able to chant the glories of your Lordship, who are so dear to me. I shall chant your glories, following exactly in the footsteps of Lord Brahma and his disciplic succession. In this way, I shall undoubtedly be able to cross the ocean of nescience. Purport. A devotee's life and duty are very well explained herein. As soon as a devotee can chant the holy name and glories of the Supreme Lord, he certainly comes to the liberated position. Attachment for glorifying the Lord by hearing and chanting the holy name and activities of the Lord, Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, certainly brings one to the position where material contamination is absent. One should chant the bona fide songs received from the disciplic succession. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the chanting is powerful when one follows the disciplic succession. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarsyo vidu. Manufacturing many ways of chanting will never be effective. However, chanting the song or the narration left by the previous acharyas, Mahajano yena gata sa pantaha, is extremely effective, and this process is very easy. Therefore, in this verse, Prahlad Maharaj uses the word anja, easily, accepting the thoughts of exalted authorities through disciplic succession is certainly much easier than the method of mental speculation, but by which one tries to invent some means to understand absolute truth. Best process is to accept the instructions of the previous acharyas and follow them. Then God realization and self-realization become extremely easy. By following this easy method, one is liberated from the contamination of the material modes of nature, and thus one can certainly cross the ocean of nescience, in which there are many miserable conditions. By following the footsteps of the great acharyas, one associates with the hamsas or paramahamsas, those who are completely freed from material contamination. Indeed, by following the instructions of the acharyas, one is always freed from all material contamination, and thus one's life becomes successful, for one reaches the goal of life. This material world is miserable, regardless of one's standard of life. Of this there is no doubt. Attempts to mitigate the miseries of material existence by material methods will never be successful. One must take to Krishna consciousness to become really happy. Otherwise, happiness is impossible. One might say that becoming advanced in spiritual life also involves tapasya, voluntary acceptance of some inconvenience. However, such inconvenience is not as dangerous as material attempts to mitigate all misery. Hare Krishna, devotees. Very nice verse here, very nice translation and purport. So, previous verses, Prahlad Maharaj was talking about all the miseries, how misery leads to misery, whether one is rich or poor. There are problems in all stages of life, whatever one's lot in the world is. But here he gives the prescription, and we have heard this many times before. He talks about following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, associating with devotees who are already practicing the bhakti and learning from them, associating with the devotees, chanting the glories of the Lord, singing the songs given already by the previous acharyas. What he does not want, or what he's not recommending, is trying to concoct your own way of doing some devotion. That is not acceptable, because that's all pure speculation. So the easiest way, the best way, everything is already laid down. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagvatam, lot of literature from the previous acharyas, lot of songs, lot of kirtans, So we just follow all those and try and develop Krishna consciousness. Thank you, Prabhu. Back to you.
Thank you, Raghu Prabhu. Very nice. You said everything. These two verses are very important, 17 and 18. Prahlad Maharaj giving us the real solution. Glorifying Leela Katha Tava, yours, O Lord Nrsingadev, Lord Hari, Lord Krishna. So many incarnations, so many pastimes, so many books full of Krishna's Leela, Krishna's pastimes. That is the real solution to be free from the material bondage. And not alone. When we do that in the association of devotees, by engaging in your transcendental loving service. See, all words are very important. This is not a material act, what we are doing right now. It's not a material act. It's transcendental. It means it's free from the three modes. Loving service, susukham. It's joyful. It gives pleasure to the heart. In the association of devotees. So, we are reading the words of Vyasadeva, Narad Muni, Srila Prabhupada's, and the commentaries in the association of sadhakas. So, all this is very, very conducive. And as I said often, that alone, if we think we can practice bhakti alone, that's hallucination. So we need good association of devotees. And to engage in bhakti in that association, not some time pass gossips, not some Gramya Katha, not some prajalpa or criticism. So we have to choose our association carefully. And there must be some association, some devotee whom we can closely share our feelings, take close guidance. Let's say we know 50 devotees. We may not be able to open up with 50 devotees equally, which is absolutely fine and understood. But there should be at least one or two. You may call it special friend, senior Vaishnava, devotee, Shiksha Guru. Again, how we address them is not the point, but what we discuss with them is more important. Or what's the kind of relationship we have is more important. Because, in the past few incidents and, today's incidents, so these things may happen in the lives of devotees as well. Again, not going in any details. Life is tough. Even in spiritual life, we may be going through a lot of challenges because the material world won't change its rules for us. So if we have that kind of discussion, open discussion, because if you someone asks me, how are you? I'll say, okay. That's the most common answer. I'm fine. Most common. That's the biggest lie. I'm fine. Because everyone is suffering. We just read. Whether one is rich or poor, happy or diseased or wealthy, or everyone is suffering. So the moment we say, I'm fine, actually it's the biggest lie. But it's not that, okay, I'll say, I have this headache and this problem. We don't generally, start discussion in that path. Some problems could be small, some problems could be bigger. But there should be at least a few devotees, one or two devotees, at least someone who is in a position to help us, guide us, uplift us, whom we feel comfortable to share our heart. And we have to search out. If we don't have that person yet, we have to pray to Krishna to please help us to reach out to that person. And preferably in our ISKCON society, it's best, because then certainly that person should be qualified, himself or herself, practicing nicely and being a good role model, so that we get inspiration, we accept them as our well-wisher, teacher, etc. And this is very, very important actually. And Ram Prabhu yesterday was also focusing on the same aspect. And there's a reason I'm especially sharing this, because mental health is also very, very important in this day and age. Physical health, mental health, emotional health. along with spiritual health. So nicely balancing all these aspects is very important, because one may be going through a tough time, but if someone has, it said, our joy increases on sharing and our suffering reduces on sharing. That person helps us to see things from a broader perspective. That person helps us to guide. It's not that they'll say, okay, you're poor, I'll give you this money, or I will tell you a magic mantra and then the problems will be gone. It's not like that, but just sharing and getting some good advice and working on that will really help us to open our horizon, that my problem is not that big actually. Look at others, so much big problems they are going through. That person will really help us. And often it is not that the things that person may, this is my experience, it's not that the person may speak something which I may have not heard, but hearing at that time and that hour of need really makes a big difference. So very, very important in this day and age, especially. There is challenges everywhere. So Krishna Katha, Krishna's Kirtan is the real remedy, and doing an association of devotees is the real way. Prabhupada is again focusing on that point. Material problems don't have material solutions. That will only lead to frustration, no success. Spiritual solution. Bhakti is the solution. Krishna Katha, Krishna name. Kaleva nasteva 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 gatiranyatha. No other way, no other way, no other way. There's only one good thing in this day and age. Any other comments or thoughts, questions?
Yes. So the question might be raised. Srila Prabhupada is writing in the purport at the end that one might say that the becoming advanced in spiritual life also involves tapasya, voluntary acceptance of some inconveniences. However, such inconvenience is not as dangerous as material attempts to mitigate or mitigate. So question might be raised, but wait a minute. Prahlad Maharaj had everything. His father was one to give everything. But to take the spiritual life, to continue his spiritual life, he had to go through so much trouble. So much trouble. So then how is that, that trouble was more dangerous for his life than the material life. He had everything in the material world. Everything. So how is that balanced out? This the question might be raised by some people. So what would be the answer? Person has everything, and he had to go through so much trouble, killing with so many ways. So to get this something spiritual, how much trouble he had to go through. And this death trouble would have not come if he had not taken the spiritual life. He would be he would have everything. So this question might be raised by some people. So what would be the answer? I'd like to know the answer from some people, some devotees who are listening this class. Please enlighten me. Let's put it that way.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. I will just share. So here we can see that Prahlad Maharaj had what you are saying, that inconveniences, all are physical inconveniences. Because he was steadfast, he was fixed in his mind to the lotus feet of the Lord. So nothing actually bothered him. In one of the lectures, when devotee was explaining about that Puritranaya Sadhunang Vinashaya Chadishkitam, he was saying that what is the difficulty for a devotee? Is death is a difficulty for a devotee? Birth is a difficulty for a devotee? No. He said, difficulty is if I am not able to attach to lotus feet of the Krishna. That is the difficulty. And he gave the example of Srila Haridas Thakur and Kulabeta Sridhar. He said there was no difficulty with them. They are only concerned. Kulabeta Sridhar's only concern. He asked Mahaprabhu that benediction, that please don't allow me to forget you. That that poem, when you come to my store, please don't allow me to forget you. So that devotee. So here, my understanding is what Prabhupada is saying, that a person when, mentally, as Sri Vilas Prabhu was saying, that mental torture is more than anything than physical thing. And from my little experience, I dealt with so many elderly people. Their major problem is they are alone. Most of from loneliness, the other physical problems are coming. So that's my understanding here too. I just want to share this fact or correct.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So here it looks like we are taking Prahlad Maharaj's physical problem or whatever Hiranyakashipu is doing to his son. We are looking at this from materialistic views, from my eyes. But what about the Prahlad Maharaj's views? Is he in suffering, or he is in strength position, even having those much of trouble? So, from my view, as a materialist person, is it troublesome? From a devotee's point, where he is in, he is always in transcendental position. Back to Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. And I was thinking of a few chapters back we read, sense gratification is much more difficult than the process of bhakti. And we have read that from the Srimad Bhagvatam. Yes, Prahlad had to go through all that. But in most cases, Prahlad was a super exemplary devotee, and Krishna uses such great examples to use, like Prahlad and Haridas Thakur. It's not that Krishna will make all of us go through that path. In most cases, the answer would be no. And we have seen that in many, many examples, many, many devotees who have, given their lives. And it's not that everyone is put. Some maybe, yes, but those are like role models to just inspire us further and further and further. And for such a person who has reached that stage, it is no difficulty for him. Rather, he thinks it as a joyful experience. Like recently, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj, he had to go through a very difficult time, and in this, I think there was the passing away of recently. Lots a lot of devotees gave wonderful lectures. He said that if I have to go through that suffering to inspire devotees, I'm happy in that state. So yes, from my perspective, it may seem to be a very tough situation that devotee may be in. But from his perspective, it is not a difficulty. He is happy because he is serving Prabhupada and inspiring hundreds and thousands of souls to become more Krishna conscious. So he is very, very joyful. But yes, from our perspective, from my perspective, in most situations, Krishna will not test that severely. Rather, sense gratification, material life is much more tougher, much more difficult. One has to work so hard to earn, and then difficult health problems and financial problems and emotional problems. It is really difficult. These are my thoughts. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you for the inputs. The question is that yes, Suvilas, you said yes, we're not going to put in that situation. If you put in situation, that will be mercy of the Lord. if you do, provided at the same time the Lord will also give, within the heart will give tolerance how to accept this misery. So that's not the case. Okay, yes, Prahlad Maharaj was the great personality, and because for him this miseries was not a was he was just completely absorbed. So Krishna was taking care of it because he was from the womb of the mother. When he was in the womb of the mother, he was loving. He had that loving relationship. In the previous verses, we read that. So he had that prema, loving relationship with the Lord was already there, established even in the womb of his mother. So, but from the general point of view, when we talk about the general public, and general public will say, wait a minute, you guys telling me he had to go through so much trouble, and then you say that trouble is just nothing. Then the answer can be, and that's what I'm understanding. The answer can be look at the end result. Because when we talk with them, when we share with people, yeah, we can say everything. Yeah, it was a great personality. But the whole point is that ultimately, the general public we have to stress. I have to stress that what was the end result. End result was the person, his father, had to leave everything and die, had to be killed. And his son is so glorious. I'm sorry, the phone is breaking down, I think. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji, we can hear you.
Okay, so the point about you have to mention shreyas and prayers. What was the end result? End result was that even though he went through all the austerities, the point was end result. Then the person, his father went through the austerities so much to gain everything in material world, but ultimately he had to give up everything and he had to be killed. So that's the point. According to my understanding, that's what here it is coming up. That's why Prahlad Maharaj is. He praying. I mean, he's in the prema, but he's putting himself. He's so high, advanced person, but still he's putting himself in a humble position. Amongst all the demigods are there, and look at it. He's telling about. He is praying about Lord. He's telling about Lord Brahma. Yeah, Prabhupada is writing in the purport, and Brahma is there. Standing, isn't it? It's like Sukadeva Goswami talking Srimad Bhagvatam. Anyhow, thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, this is Raghunandan Das. Thank you for this wonderful discussion and also sharing nice understandings. Thank you so much. I just had 3 points. We all understand from reading the scriptures that miseries and sufferings are part of the material world. It's the reality of the material world. And we don't need to go out and try for being in a miserable and suffering condition. It just comes. So Krishna says miseries come on its own accord, happiness comes on its own accord, and again it goes away and miseries come. So that is the nature of this material world. And talking about the level of difficulties and sufferings that Prahlad Maharaj had to undergo, and some of you touched upon that point, and Krishna is going to give me only what I can handle. Each one of us, he is going to give us what we can handle. He is not going to give less, he is not going to give more. So it might look like too much from our perspective, but from the experience and perspective of Prahlad Maharaj, he can handle it because he has been given the spiritual strength to handle it. So in a similar way, whatever situations I am facing in my life, it might seem like it's the end of the world to me. It is overwhelming me, but still the spiritual strength also comes along with that for me to face that situation. It's not, I'm not talking even about taking shelter of spiritual process, spiritual master, and so on. There are so many other people in this world who are being put in so many abusive situations, and they have been human trafficking and so on and so forth, and they have been rescued, and they have undergone severe trauma, but they still have that zeal for living. That is Krishna's mercy. They have been put through so much abusive situations. They did not even have a spiritual process or a bhakti process or a spiritual shelter, but still the protection and shelter is there for them to come out from that situation and then start on the recovery path. There are multiple examples of such abusive people, cases in this world who have been rescued. So the point that I'm making is Krishna gives only what we can handle, and he gives us the strength to face the challenges of the situations. And Subhadas Govind Prabhu was talking about, making a very good point about it takes lots of hard work even to achieve some kind of success or happiness in this material world. And it struck me that even more than the miseries and sufferings, to go through the so-called material happiness and material enjoyment in this material world and not be sucked into it and not become attached to it, that is even more challenging. So those are the 3 points that came to my mind when we were having this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Any other comments or questions before we stop for today?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. That was a very nice discussion. And Prabhuji, yeah, I agree with, of course, I'm a neophyte devotee. So, yeah, with the mental thing, Prahlad Maharaj was able to withstand all these materialistic obstacles because he did not see them as, even though he had all the luxuries, he did not aspire for them. His zeal was in Krishna consciousness, in pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So for him, so if we focus, something like that, whatever the material disturbances we have, even then, even in those cases, if we focus our mind on a higher taste of Krishna consciousness, or even, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Suitoshna Sukha Dukkha, even if, summertime or winter time, if you are equipoised, and you also mentioned like how Prahlad Maharaj, was given extreme because Lord Krishna was showing it as an example. So that is my, of course here Raghunandan Prabhu also said Krishna knows, who and what each person is tolerating. Prabhuji, on telling that, just I have one question. So, I mean, we have been hearing a few cases of like taking their own life. So, does that mean that person is, though he is capable of managing that obstacle, but he kind of gave up? Because in Krishna consciousness, of course, in spirituality we say that a person should never take his own life. Any comments, Prabhuji, on that one?
Again, this is a very sensitive topic, but we can pray for that person. That's what we can do from our side. or help in other aspects, the family members, etc., to go through this tough situation, and what lesson we can learn from this, so that we don't end up in such situations, or neither our people who may be looking up to us, or whom we may be looking up to. So whatever, and that's the point I was going with, like having one or two close people whom we can open up everything. Because I could have 5,000 friends on Facebook. I could be in a yatra with 5,000 devotees. One devotee said to me in this yatra last year in Kartik, he said, you could be in yatra, and I was like really taken back, and I was deeply introspecting that. He said, you could be in yatra with 5,000 devotees all around dancing, chanting, prasadam, buses, everything is devotee conscious. I mean, because you go to a market, you're devotee. You go to buy prasadam, it's devotee. You go yatra and bus, everything, everyone is devotees. Thousands of devotees, 8,000 devotees came. He said, but still you could be inside alone. So, the point was that yes, association, gathering and all that is very nice, helpful to chant better, to improve, but there should be, we should focus on our relationships with devotees. So, getting deeper in those relationships. And everyone, we will have a different relationships. So there should be at least one or two where I can share myself completely like an open book. I may not be able to do that with 50 devotees. That is the most powerful thing in my experience and others' experience. At least one or two devotees. There should be once in life. One has, that's a great blessing. If one does not have, one should certainly pray, beg to Krishna, beg to a spiritual master to please send me that right person whom I can develop or very deep relation, Krishna conscious relation. So that's not going in the details why it happened, how it happened, when it happened, what will Krishna do. Certainly there will be, Krishna, bhakti does not go in vain. So if a person has done bhakti, that will not go in vain. Prabhupada, when His Holiness Vishnujan Swami Maharaj, also same case happened. He gave up his life, and but ultimately, that person who has rendered bhakti will certainly, whatever point one has completed 90%, one will start from 91%, and so on. So, but what we can do is what we can do. What we can't do, we can just pray. Does that answer, or was it off topic?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, I agree, Prabhuji. What we can do, we can do. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, anything else before we stop? Is anyone interested to play a...
Yeah.
Yes, Bhadra.
Well, I want to say something, but the time is over, I think. So tomorrow I can mention the point. Raghunath mentioned the point about Srila Prabhupada. I can point to Srila Prabhupada in that. But I guess tomorrow, because it's already 10 o'clock. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Granthra Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai. Shri Nrsimhadev Bhagwan ki jai. Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Samavita Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.